have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents.
A big part of me believes that this right here is a good old-fashioned humiliation ritual for Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, who, by the way, his father was one of the worst national security advisors in American history. But I also think that this right here is once again another desperate plea for ratings, meaning that they're going to Trump's residency to say, save us. And personally, I don't think he will. But let us not forget some of the things that these people have said.
The point applies even if this is not Germany 1933. The point applies if this is something not as savage as Germany 1933, but simply an autocrat who decides to be a dictator on day one, who decides to arrest all those who he doesn't like, to take news networks off the TV, as he said he would do if they're not supportive of him, who's talked about assassinating generals that aren't sufficiently loyal to him, has complained to his chief of staff that his generals should be more like Hitler's generals. Of course, Hitler's generals tried to kill Adolf Hitler, but Donald Trump didn't know history, so he didn't know that. Whose own lawyer said in court he could use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate.
That was then, this is now.
As somebody close to Donald Trump told me this past weekend, this is a president who's not seeking re-election, so maybe, just maybe, now could be the time for both parties to get to work. And I know, given the jarring headlines that we read every day, that may seem like a stretch, but think about this. Of the 150 million votes cast, Donald Trump got 50%. Kamala Harris got about 49%.
There's more. Trust me, there's more. Like, once again, like I said before, this was then.
As that the news network that is most critical of him should be taken off the air. This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I do it without any concerns whatsoever. And if people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand.
I'm pretty sure by now you guys get the point. Of course, I'm playing the rest of it for you guys here, the B-roll footage. There's also this other little bit that's been unearthed here recently in the B-roll footage that you guys will see here in a second with RFK Jr., Trump's cabinet pick for Health and Human Services. I personally think he should have gotten FDA, but still, there's also this little bit showing you guys that once again, these people were all friendly at one point in time. Now, Richard Barris, the People's Pundit, I was listening to him today, and there's actually going to be a little bit in one of the videos later on today because we got to talk about the woke one more time because guess what? It looks to me like they're going to try to keep on going with the woke stuff, and I said that they would, but of course, I got to give my commentary on it, so that video will be coming out a little bit later on this afternoon after this one here, which of course these videos will be released on Tuesday. Yeah, it just seems to me like what is going on here is that these people once again can't find their way. But of course, when they tell you that they are coming to make up, then I would not believe it. But of course, listening to Richard Barris earlier, which I talked about for a second, and then cut myself off like the idiot that I am from time to time, he basically said something about Trump where he said that he had Nixon syndrome, where he wanted everybody to love him. And that is actually true. However, the thing is this right here. After a while, even those who want everybody to love them at some point in time are going to lash out. So I don't think that this little plea that Mika and Scarborough had at Mar-a-Lago this past weekend, if it even actually happened, I don't think it's going to work. But don't worry, we will be talking about that because once again, it's time to talk about the media and where the media screws up and where they get it wrong and why it is that this attempt will completely fail. Now, before we get started, make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are new here. Please go ahead and cut the notifications on for the channel if you guys, you do that. Obviously, YouTube will notify you when my videos are out. Sometimes they don't do that, but still hit the notifications bell anyways. So that way, you guys will be notified at some point in time that my videos are, in fact, out there. It's part of the reason why it is next year I'm probably going to be downsizing the overall uploads themselves. I'll still probably upload every day, but still have somewhat of a downsizing the overall uploads altogether so that you guys can catch up. And let's go ahead and get into this. So, Why in the world would they do this? Well, as you guys already know, and I talked about this in a previous video, MSNBC, they are about to be sold by Comcast. The new buyers, they're probably not going to want to have a leftist rag, or they're not going to want to have a pure propaganda channel to run. Or they may just say, screw it, and fire everybody there and put some other people in their place. Like I said before, Joy Reid probably won't last. Elon Mustal will probably not be there. And of course, identity politics will come up in video number 2, but I might as well go ahead and touch on a little bit in this video here. The identity politics, the woke, all the other crazy crap these people are throwing out there is probably not going to stick around for the new heads of the MSNBC department, if you guys are kind of picking up on what I'm saying. Meaning that these on-air personalities will probably get axed, especially given the fact that CNN is also axing a lot of their people as well. However, I did say in the previous video that CNN is more than likely going to be restocking those that they lay off with either some old faces like Brian Stelter, who was over there earlier today, and there is also the possibility, strong possibility, that they'll be bringing in a lot of Biden people and Harris people to give everybody the daily dose of propaganda. Which means it's just going to be Orange Man bad once again. And of course, people are sick and tired of hearing Orange Man bad. They're waiting for their lives. They're hoping that their lives will in fact improve. And of course, the former president does in fact have a mandate to do so. Regardless of how much the mainstream media tells you that he does not have one, the man did win the popular vote. The man does have Congress. The man does have the Senate. So yes, he does in fact have a mandate. Why? Why in the world are Joe and Mika Brzezinski, why in the world are they doing this? Well, let's look at some more of what they actually said, and then we'll come back on the other end. And of course, you guys already know that there is going to be an anger section of this video where I'm going to have to give you guys some of my wrath here soon. Don't worry, that is coming. But let's talk about why it is that these people are now looking for somebody to save them, that person being the Orange Man. But also at the same time, let's make fun of why it is that these people cannot help themselves. Let's roll this first part.
We have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed.
You people literally called this man Hitler for the better part of not just the last 4 years, but the previous 4 years before that. You guys lied about him. You smeared him. There was even an assassination attempt on him that was almost successful. The president's brains were all over the place. A firefighter by the name of Corey Carpenter, he died that day because of your rhetoric. Also, to go on top of that, not only was it your rhetoric that almost got him killed, but it also led to a second assassination attempt. And then to go on top of that, it has led to a lot of the hate and the division that we are dealing with in this country at this moment in time. But it does get better because these people, once again, let you know who the hell they are by just simply talking. Because they don't know how to talk to regular people. Let's watch the last bit of this, a whole minute and 8 seconds. And then, of course, I'm going to give you guys another example of these people not being able to help themselves. But let's watch this.
That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved.
There are some people out there saying that Joe and Mika bent the knee here. I think it could be something else, but then again, at the same time, and you're going to hear me say this at the very end, because even while making this video, trying to get things squared away, I was still even kind of baffled as to what they're actually doing. A preemptive strike, a preemptive session where you're going to beg the president who's coming in to give you some stories, or maybe we won't speak as bad about you, even though you guys will see over the course of this video that they will continue to speak bad about the current president and, of course, also Donald Trump voters. I really should have kind of baffled at what it is that these people are doing, but it does reek of desperation. It also seems to me like a bit of a poison chalice, and something else too. Maybe what Joe and Mika should do is, instead of going to Mar-a-Lago, maybe they should actually talk to Trump voters, or maybe they should actually bring Trump supporters on their network on MSDNC. But then again, at the same time, the only thing these liberals do is just interrupt conservatives when they get there. So this right here is something that I just would not trust. It's like I've always said when it comes, and I'll continue to say it over and over and over again. Their ratings are falling apart. They're down 50%. They're on life support. Just let them freaking die. Right there at the end, she was about to say that people did not care about the issues that the media had peddled. Okay, so they didn't care about 1-6. They didn't care about half the crap that the mainstream media threw out there. They didn't like the idea that you had biological men playing in women's sports. They didn't like the idea that the mainstream media was on board with that. They didn't exactly like what the Democrats were selling. They didn't like the idea of the price of gas being close to $3 a gallon, in some cases $5 and $6 a gallon in certain states where the price of living is a little bit higher. They didn't like the idea of milk and eggs going up through the roof. They didn't like the idea of the mainstream media pumping out the whole abortion narrative. And also, to go on top of that, they also had a previous 4 years where Trump was president where they could kind of determine on their own that the man was not exactly a fascist. Or at least he could not govern like a fascist. You see, the fascism argument was never going to work because people in America, they typically tend to be a little bit smarter than you give them credit for. But of course, they could not help themselves but be smug and condescending while they were giving that little spiel. I personally don't believe that Donald Trump will actually forgive this. And I think the reason why he won't forgive this and forgive them is because Donald Trump has no incentive to do so. Let's go back to Donald Trump's first presidency. I'll be very, very brief with this. You see, when Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016, I always thought, looking back, that it probably was a good idea if he had said that he did not know if he was going to seek re-election or not. Basically, tell the American people, just give me one term to try to see if I can get it turned around, at least get our situation going, and I'll endorse the next person who can kind of follow the whole Make America Great Again thing, the MAGA thing. But of course, Mike Pence was never MAGA. He was the establishment. Trump, of course, did run for re-election, which of course he had the right to do so. And most presidents do, in fact, run for a second term, which quite frankly, you can't blame him for doing because most presidents win second term. And then, of course, everything that happened in 2020 happened. Let's also not forget all the other crap that had happened before that, the impeachment, the constant media lies, Russia, the constant undermining, all that type of stuff there. But of course, when Trump would utilize Twitter, he would tweet things out and it would absolutely trigger the literal hell out of the media. And the American people saw the mainstream media completely flip out every time he did this. It's part of the reason why it was that Trump was able to go from 62.9 million votes to 74.2 million votes. They liked what he had to say. They loved the fact that he was calling out the media. And of course, they've also loved the fact that he's been calling out the media ever since he's been out of office. They love the fact that even on Truth Social or wherever, or the campaign trail, he's been laying right into these people. But still, though, this time around, Donald Trump will be what? He'll be, how do I say, unburdened by the possibility of having to run for a second term. He won't need to. Basically, what Trump can do is just simply go in the White House and go into the Oval Office and treat it like he would have a day at Trump Tower when he was running Trump Industries, or running all the real estate stuff that he had going on. I'm just simply saying that the man has absolutely no incentive to help the media out. However, that does not mean that there will not be time to, or times where you won't need to check the media. That's why all tech exists. But there is one person, and a person that we're going to be talking about in the second video that I'm going to play a little bit of now because this person here just seems to not want to let it go. Let's go to the View real quick.
Press that is willing to speak truth to power right now, more than ever. And I think that we have to be very clear-eyed when we think about the president-elect and cover the president-elect. And I don't think you need to sit down for 90 minutes at Mar-a-Lago and kiss his ring to be able to speak truth and to be able to cover a story. So maybe they're not journalists in the true sense. Maybe they're saying that they're opinion journalists. But we have to remember that Trump is the guy who ushered in the era of fake news. He is the guy who ushered in alternative facts. He is the guy who attacked 3 black female journalists. He's the guy that revoked Jim Acosta's press credentials for asking him a question. And so I think that this president-elect, I hate to say it, would like nothing more than to have only Fox News cover him, would like nothing more than a state-sponsored...
Play all the way through, and Sunny Hostin was nastier than what she normally is. I mean, I'm just trying to think, how in the world could you be married to somebody like that? Just somebody who just filled with hate, anger, and rage. And by the way, when we get to the second video where we talk about Woke 2.0, you'll see exactly what this really and truly is, the smugness, the arrogance, the fact that these people don't learn. The point is this right here. When they're saying stuff like, we need to hold him accountable, have a media that will do that, and old Fox News is just a propaganda piece, what they're doing is that they're simply accusing you of what they're already guilty of, which is what the left always does. Let's just talk for a very, very brief second before we close the video out on what exactly the left has. And what I mean by what the left has is what the left has as far as communication apparatus. You see, right now, a lot of liberals, Sunny Hostin being one of them, they've left Twitter. They left X. They go to this platform called Blue Sky. It's the new left-wing Twitter, even though they actually have Threads, which is Mark Zuckerberg, and they also have another one called Mastodon. They just straight up forgot about those other two. That's just goes to show you how these people's memories work. But the conversation of having an actual left-wing apparatus for conversation, they've had that for years. They've actually had that for over a decade. It was called YouTube. You see, for a long time there, someone like myself, and still to a certain extent, I've got to self-censor a little bit. We couldn't just call them out and say the truth. Of course, liberals would complain, they'd get upset, they'd get your videos flagged, and you would find yourself removed from YouTube. Google would actually lay the boots to you is what they would do. They did to Steven Crowder on multiple occasions, demonetized him several times. And then there's Twitch, which I think we'll be talking about a little bit later on this week, where a bunch of leftist streamers, and of course BreadTube, and of course they came from Twitch. They had Twitch accounts, they play video games, and spew out all kinds of anti-American left-wing nonsense. That's what these people would do. So they had their own apparatus. And of course, they also have the institutions, and of course, they also have the media. It feels to me like the media, or the personalities in the media, the people who toe the line for the Democratic Party, it seems to me like they're trying to play victim while at the exact same time trying to say that they are above you. It's a very, very weird thing that's going on. I can't really exactly figure it out. But the fact of the matter is that these people have had the mainstream media. They've had the media echo chamber. And of course, a lot of people just cut it off. You got CNN, you got CBS, you got ABC, you got MSDNC, you got liberals that are on CNBC. Hell, even Fox News has liberals on the network. I mean, they brought Juan Williams back for election night. I have no idea why the hell they did that. And of course, to go on top of that, you've also got online leftists. Of course, a lot of these online leftists claim that they're trying to overtake the mainstream media, but at the same time, they kind of get all their own news from the mainstream media, which is going to be kind of hard to figure out how they're going to operate. If the mainstream media is not there, kind of strange. These people don't exactly think about things before they actually go through with it. Still, to get back on track here, when you hear Sunny Hostin speak like that, basically demanding, because that's what she's pretty much doing, is she's demanding that the media goes harder after Trump in the second term. And of course, you guys will see in the follow-up video, the 5 o'clock video that comes out after this one here, because it was coming out at 12 o'clock, you will see exactly how hateful she is and how much more hateful she can be. When they do this type of stuff, it's really in a lot of ways self-hatred. Nobody really and truly hates anybody else. Now, let me say this before we close the video out. Typically, when you are in the death stage of something, which is what this is, it's the death of the Democratic Party in the mainstream media, you're in the bargaining phase right now. It looks to me like maybe what's going on here is that Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, they're trying to do what? They're trying to go ahead and bargain. You know, please save us. Please send us some stories. Please send us something we can go on. Because this is not about bipartisanship. Trust me. This is not about bipartisanship at all. Still, though, to go on top of that, when you see Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough do that, but then you see Sunny Hostin turn right back around and go absolutely crazy, what Sunny Hostin in a lot of ways is doing is that she's showing you how much discontent she has for MSDNC itself because she believes that they're now sellouts. It's also a level of self-hatred too, which of course that right there typically tends to show up during the bargaining phase. And of course the depression stage is typically when the self-harm begins. And when that self-harm begins, oh my God, it's going to be absolutely insane. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say because, yeah, I'm even a little bit confused by this, but I don't know if it's depression. I don't know if it's desperation. I don't know what the hell it is these people are doing. But it does make me wonder if somebody's going to try to save them, and I just don't see the incentives for the Trump administration or Trump to even extend a hand or even throw a life jacket out to them. Just simply saying, but you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. The follow-up video is going to be about Woke 2.0 because, like I said before, these people are not going to give it up. I already know it, but I'll explain why that's the case in the next video. Make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.